years have gone by since I've made any videos on this. This is my 97 Lexus LX450. And the fact that I haven't made any videos on this car is an absolute travesty, because if it wasn't for this, my YouTube channel may not be where it is today. I may not even have one. I did a 12 video series on this, showing how you can LS swap one of these trucks without taking it to a shop and spending an obscene amount of money. Yes, it took me 3 years to complete. Of course, I didn't work on it the whole time. I'd get stuck or disinterested and go work on something else, but I stuck with it, followed through, and I got it done, and now it runs and drives. I've been driving it for 2 years. It passes safety and emissions, which we have here, and I love this thing. But there's still some work to do, and we're going to get some of that done today. But I want to show you the truck because a lot of you haven't seen the channel long enough to remember the videos on this truck. So if you want to go way back 2 years ago, you can see all the videos. 3 years, 4 years. It's been a while. It's been a bit. This swap has purpose and reason. The original 1FC FE, while it is a strong engine, at 245,000 miles, decided to turn one of the rod bearings into sparkly forbidden glitter. It was full. It just didn't like that rod bearing. It always suffered with low oil pressure issues and oil consumption. And I know the engine had been overheated before because it had a replacement cylinder head on it, and I don't think they went through the bottom end when that happened. I didn't want to go through one of those engines and rebuild it, spend $3,000, $3,500 by the time I'm done to get 12 or 13 miles to the gallon and make a paltry 212 horsepower. This thing was frighteningly slow when I drove it to Pikes Peak, and at elevation, it's okay at sea level. But I couldn't find a used engine for less than $2,800, $3,000 at the time. And again, it's a big question mark. You don't know how long that's going to last, what its maintenance history is. So I embarked on the LS swap, and it's actually a 5.3 liter LM4. It's an all aluminum 5.3. It is not a high performance by any stretch. I did not want something that could just fry the tires. I wanted fuel economy and to be able to run 87 octane, which this does. So this is tuned on 87. I also went with a 6L80 6-speed automatic transmission because I'm not a big fan of 4L60s, and I didn't want something that was going to, I don't know, turn everything into neutrals. So with this swap, I've put about 2,800 miles on it, which doesn't seem like a lot in 2 years because I don't really drive it that much. But it still manages to get about 16 to 16 and a half miles to the gallon, and that's mostly city and mixed driving. I haven't had it out on the highway to see what it would actually do, but if I were to guess, I'd say it would get somewhere between 17 and 18 miles to the gallon, which is really good considering where it came from. When I first started this project, I only had a couple of videos on my YouTube channel. Nothing really meaningful, and at the same time, I was digging for information on how the swap worked. The parts I needed to use off of certain vehicles, the work I needed to do to get certain things to work, because I wanted it to be a complete swap, not just something that runs and drives. And I realized that there is a void of information out there. There was not one single place where you could find everything on one person swap or how to swap this the right way. Now, I'm not going to say that I didn't make mistakes along the way, but at the same time, there's a lot of us rather competent wrenches out there that don't want to pay somebody $30,000 to work on their vehicle, that also feel like the project is so overwhelming that they'll never get started without some sort of guide. And that is where the video series came into play. I started this series on how I got everything working. Yes, I made a lot of mistakes. I am not a fabricator. I am not even a good welder, but I made it work-ish. It drives, so I guess it works. I guess that's kind of my sentiment towards it. It isn't done the best, but it also only cost me $5,500 all in, and I still haven't sold off the original parts. I've got an air flow meter to sell, the computer, the engine parts that came out of this. There's still a lot that will kind of chip away at my total investment here. Either way, this was a great project. Not sure if I would ever tackle this again. However, knowing what I know now, I think the swap would probably take me a few months. In the 2 years since the swap was completed, I still have turned some wrenches on this thing. And the main thing I did was find a decent set of seats for it. The original seat tracks were just totally worn out, tons of forward and backward play. The leather was all split and it had some terrible seat covers. So I found these out of another Land Cruiser. They're not perfect, but I don't really want perfect. I just want good. I also found some other nicer interior parts, a nicer steering wheel, some sun visors that don't always hang down. Just some general cleanup. So what work do I still need to do? Well, there's some things I'm not going to tackle today, like getting the AC working or the cruise control working. That's another big can of worms for later. But there's some things I did when I put the swap together that I need to address before it becomes a problem. First, we're going to replace this plastic coupler. I don't know what I was thinking. That needs to be metal. Also, the fuel line couplers need to be one piece instead of multi-piece. So we're going to replace those. Again, there's no reason why this stuff wouldn't last, but I'd rather be proactive about it without burning my truck to the ground. One of the bigger things I need to tackle is the belt alignment. So I had to change the power steering pulley to one from a Ford 4.9 liter. And when I did that, I can't push the pulley on far enough to get the belt to not be one rib off on the crank pulley. So what I've devised here is we're going to pull this all back out, and I'm going to space out the power steering pump so that I can pull the pulley in a little closer so that the belt alignment is correct. It does make some noise, but it has lasted. That's probably the most pressing matter here, is that. And then, if you guys remember, some of you that have been on the channel for a long time, this truck used to have a snowplow on it. I pushed snow for several seasons, and I've decided that is not going to happen anymore. It's too rough on the truck, and I don't want to replace steering joints, and I don't want it rusting away. So there's still some remnants of the old plow setup, and that is a welded-in cross member that we need to chop out. So we're going to have to pull the front bumper to get that out. We'll clean that up. It'll be some work, but I feel like that's what needs to happen. I don't want anything in the front of this that isn't supposed to be there. The first thing I'm going to do is remove this section of the upper radiator hose. I have a couple of these aluminum unions. I'm hoping that these are the right size. We'll find out really quick though. Oh, there's coolant in there. So this is the plastic one that we're replacing. And yeah, I totally forgot that I used plastic there. I don't really know what I was thinking. I don't know if I was thinking. First, yeah, that should be fine, right? Yeah. Whew, that's a relief.
Come on.
So as you can see, that's pretty deformed. I don't know what I was thinking. That was before I had kids. I have even less of an idea now. Good and tight. Wait, this isn't German. You know, I should be smart about this. Let's get a little more of this coolant out of here. Before I button this back up, in the event I need to remove the fan to work on the power steering pump, I need to leave this apart. So we'll just take this off for right now. We'll just kind of set this aside. Well, I got to thinking about this belt alignment situation with the power steering pump pulley. And the first way I came up with was to knock all this out, take the alternator off, take this bracket out with the power steering pump, which would require draining it. And then I would use 1 millimeter spacers, pull the pulley off, space the pump backwards 1 millimeter, they're essentially washers, and then reassemble, and that way the pulley would be closer to the bracket, because that's the goal here. The reason I can't push the pulley on any further on the shaft now is that the pulley's thick and it makes contact with the actual power steering pump. And if I push it on any further, it wrecks the pump. And I've already done this once. I one and done here. However, I came up with a new idea. I don't know if it's a good one or not, and I don't know if it's going to work, but what if I grind the backside of the pulley down to make it shallower or thinner so then I can push the pulley on further. It doesn't have to be a precise fit, but that way, all I have to do is pull the pulley off, grind on it a little bit, and then put it back on. Seems simple enough, and I think that's the route we're going to go. First, let's pop this belt off. Just leave that right where she lies. Set that over yonder. And now, pump's got a little play in it anyway. I still don't want to ruin it. So now we need to get this off, and thankfully I'm pretty sure that this tool will fit in here. Yes, I don't have to take the fan out. It's a good thing I left this upper radiator hose out. That would have been in the way. All right, see if this works. It is not working. Wow, that's on there. Wow. I don't know if this is gonna work. I don't want to break my battery box here. So what if... Yeah, crank pulley doesn't care. I might have to pull this apart anyway. This is an obscene amount of force. Oh, that was either something breaking or something breaking free. I don't know which that was. I didn't enjoy it either way. Oh, it's coming. Can't really tell how far we've moved. All I can tell you is that this plan is not going to work because the pulley is already really shallow. I'm going to have to pull the whole thing out anyway. Oh well, I tried. First, let's get the alternator bolts loose. A couple of 15s. Well, those weren't very tight. Set that right there. That's good. I'm not sure if I have the rear bolt in this thing. I'm actually hoping that I forgot it on purpose. But before we go any further, we need to get the power steering fluid out of this, so we'll get that out right now. So I'm going to put the straw into here. And we'll give it the vacuum. This is what we do with cars every day at work. Keeps the messes down. Obviously I'm still going to lose some, but it will be less. And we're about there. The reservoir is probably empty. As empty as it gets. And call that good. Next, we're going to get this. I have no idea where that went. It's fine. We're going to get the bracket for the battery cable out of the way. Oh, did I put that bolt back in it? I did. I can get that out, I think. There's just hoses, wires, spark plugs, and other stuff in the way. Just stuff. Alright, at this point I've got a fitting, which I've managed to crack loose already, and the worm clamp, which I've gotten loose as well. This is on the bottom of the pump here. So we're going to continue to undo the fitting, and I'm pretty sure I can get to that 15mm bolt in the bottom that I can barely see from the top. I'm pretty sure that's how I put it in. It's always a really good time. Let's see if I can get this up here. Get this hose off. Alright, here comes the shower. Oh, that's not that bad. I expected a whole bunch of power steering fluid to give me a bath, but it didn't. Now we're gonna chase that bolt. Not chase it literally, but
well, I've been working on the railroad.
I know it's not even that long of a bolt. I think I got it. I don't have it yet. Let's see. Gotta get my arm up there somehow with magic sauce. Alright. Yeah. Someday it will stop threading and I will reach the end of the bolt. Got it. Now that all the stuff on the bottom is done, I should be able to take these couple of bolts the rest of the way out. Should come out the way I want it to. Store these here in that extra precarious position. All right, be nice to me, please. Harness. That's the harness. Did I route this like I think I did? Oh no, it comes out. Well, I need to get this fitting off the back of this pump because apparently my super smart former self ran the harness between it and the pump and it's too close. It doesn't clear. What was I thinking? I mean, it worked at the time, but servicing, no, bad. Okay, there's one harness around it. And it lasts. All right, so I've got the pump off. I didn't have to pull the pulley all the way off. That's just unnecessary work. But these are what I'm going to use to space it out. These are head bolt washers from an engine. I don't know what they came from, but I think these are going to be the right distance. I have a little bit of apprehension about the amount of thread left on the bolts, but I don't know if I have 3 of the same bolts that are going to be a little bit longer than that. So I think I'm going to run with them. I think it should be okay. The other thing we may run into is this bracket here. I'm probably going to have to cut this bracket to where it's just going to be slotted. I think it'll make installation a lot easier too. So I think that's what we're going to end up having to do. Now we need to try to, this is going to be the fun game, try to get this back in here. So what I ended up doing is blasting it all apart anyway. I needed the extra space to get this put together. So these are the spacers. I had to modify this one a little bit to fit inside this hole. Fits just fine. And now I'm going to set this kind of on top of here. It's pretty precarious working on this. It's not the worst, but just kind of boop it on there just like so. I think there's going to be enough thread engagement here. That's not going anywhere. Since we scooted the power steering pump backwards, I need to cut the bracket since this is going to move, essentially the pump's moving this way if the bolt hole's here. So I'm going to slot this bracket. I could cut this and shorten this, and then I got to measure stuff. That sounds like work. We're just going to slot this and it'll work just fine. Now we get to put the pulley back on this. I'm reinstalling the pulley. I'm going to do this kind of carefully here. Carefully. After a lengthy round of choice expletives, this is ready to go back in. So now we're going to set this back in here, get everything bolted up, lines back in. We're going to see if the belt lines up. I hope the belt lines up. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to push that pulley in just a little further in. I don't know. We'll see. Oh, maybe not. All right, well, I've got all of the forward-facing bolts in, so I'm going to zip them down. This pulley's going to have to go in just a little more. I can already see it's not quite aligned, but we can do that where it is, so it won't be too much trouble. Sorry about the background noise. My heater's going. It's a little chilly outside. So I've got my installer installed. I don't know how else to say that. We're going to try to push this pulley on just a little bit more. There might be some more adjustment, but for right now, this is what we're going to do. I don't know if this is going to work in this current position. It's going to work. Yes, that's the sound of work. I'm just using my eyeballs. It's getting closer. Definitely don't want to go too far. Well, we're very close. Try this one more time. I mean, we're going to try this multiple times until it's right, you know. Alright guys, I've got this pulley on as far as I'd like to before I put the belt on. At this point, I think it's time to put the alternator back on, put some of the bracketry back on, slap the belt on it, and turn the engine over by hand to see if that belt wants to walk off the crank pulley. If it doesn't, we're good. If it does, we can always push that pulley on a little further. Excuse me. Torque to spec. We've got this bracket on the side here. Now, let's stab this belt in here. See if I can remember how this goes. Yeah, I think I'm going to replace this belt if this works. If this doesn't work, I'm going to replace this belt. Will you? Okay, now we're underneath this thing. We're just going to get these fittings started and we'll get them tight. I remember this one being particularly fun the last time. Will you just do what I want you to do? Alright, that did nothing. I thought I was getting there, and I wasn't. Did I? Did I get started?
Yes.
Alright, let's see. Can I get to the back fitting on the pump? Someday we'll bottom this fitting out and it'll get tight. I'll let you know when that happens.
Are we there? No?
Oh, we're getting close. Alright, there's one fitting tight. Now I need to get... This one is always fun. I say it like I've had this apart 10 times. Because I have. Okay. Pressure line is tight. Let's check the fitting on the back of the pump one more time. Yes, that's happy. All right, now we can put the low pressure line on. Get the clamp on fitting. Ooh, that clamp is bad. Okay, time to find a new clamp. Oh yeah, compression. I might just have to wait till the, you know, everything's back together and fired up. I think that's what I'm going to do. Yep. I forgot how strong compression is. Now we can finally get this upper radiator hose in. Don't want to go too crazy. Now we just have to add some fluids. Okie dokie, drink up. It'll probably need a top off once it fills all the lines, but it's fine. All right, now we gotta fill up the coolant. Let's do this with a funnel. Sketchy.
Hey.
All right, I think that's good enough. I'll top it off again at some other point. All right, let's give it a little test. I'm gonna start it up for a second, see if it kicks the belts off and self-destructs. Yay! Oh, that's awesome. It's not pouring fluid from anywhere. That's fantastic. Why is the fan running though? All right, let's shut her down. Before I go any further, I'm actually going to change the oil. Maintenance. That's what this channel is about. Maintenance. Nope. Yep. Hopefully we don't make a giant mess here. Looks like oil to me. Not seeing any sparkles in it. Okay, it's been draining for a while. Now we can put this back in. Oh, you want to play that game? We can play that game. Go above the axle. Alright, that's tight enough. Now let's get this filter of oil down. Oh, that doesn't fit that filter. What? Why? Alright, well, let's see if we can do this by hand. I doubt it, because I probably tightened it too much. Yeah, no. Get a little bit of this oil in there. Go around on the little ring gasket. Let's get that a little tighter. Voila! Wait, almost done. Don't want any drips on the driveway. Not that I own BMWs already. Now it's time to fill her up. We're going to do this sans funnel because funnels are for power steering fluid. I mean, they're probably for this too.
Take it.
So fun fact, This is not a truck oil pan. This is an F-body pan out of a 98-02 Trans Am Camaro Firebird. And what's odd about this pan is it is also the same pan as a 2009 Express fan, but not a 10 and not an 08, just a 9. I can't figure that one out. You guys tell me, why does the 09 Express have an F-body pan just for 1 year? Go on, look it up if you don't believe me. All right, on the last one, we're going to do half quart, 5.5 quarts. It's oil capacity for this. Stop, measure. A little bit more. Next on the agenda, these fuel fittings. And I don't know if these fittings are going to work here. I'm going to tackle the return line first. For some reason, I thought these were both the same size, and I don't know what that reason was. So we're just going to try to pop these off of here. I don't know if these are going to come off that easily. No, that is very, very forced on there. I'm going to have to cut this off, which is not a big deal. And I should probably get a rag to catch all this. We're actually going to use this pig mat because it absorbs better. I'm just going to cut it right here. I got a bunch of extra slack here, so I'm not that worried about it. Very little fuel coming out. It is the return after all.
Let's see, where did my clamp go? It's vanished. Did I take it off? What did I do? Where'd it go? Well, I need it. I could really use it right now. Did it fall down? Did it fall up?
I put it right here. That works pretty good. All right, now where did I go with the screw? Oh, it's right here. Losing my marbles, guys. I don't remember when I had marbles, though. Okay, almost poked a hole in my hand, so we're good. Well, I just turned the camera off and got this done. This really wasn't worth keeping the camera on for, but it tucked those lines a little further away from the exhaust. I'm going to put some protective wrap on those at some point. I've got some stuff that Audi used on fuel lines near exhaust. I think that'll work just fine, but I shorten those up. There's fewer pieces in the system, and hopefully less of a chance of a leak. Alrighty then. Check engine light. Check engine light. Did I unplug something? I wonder what that's about. What did I do wrong? It's not supposed to turn a check engine light on. Why are the fans running? Oh, you know what I did? I unplugged the water thermosensor. That's why it's all upset. Why did I do that? Alright, let's plug back in. No more fan, but the belts are ticking. I think I'm just going to replace that belt. Everything looks pretty happy. It's not trying to ride anything. Yeah, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. It's not riding up on the crank pulley, which is most important. Let's give it some revs. Power. All right. Look at that. That's perfect right there. Spick and span. Little pig mat. Some brake clean. It's a recipe for clean floors. Yeah, look how clean that is. I still wouldn't eat off of it. The next thing I need to do is remove the front bumper. And I don't know that I actually have to remove this to cut this piece that was welded in out, but I'm going to. It's just going to make things easier. I don't want to cut the wrong thing. And it looks like it's just a few bolts that hold this on. Nothing too crazy. Ooh, that was a little stiff. Don't say it. Is it looser? I don't know. I just have one bolt over yonder. Do this. Yeah, that did stuff. Oh, is that it? Oh, well, that's simple. It's gonna be easy going back together. Huh. I had no idea those just slid in there. Every single Land Cruiser I buy is usually smacked in the front or so rusty that I just assume it's all one piece. So this is the part I need to cut out. This was welded in for my snowplow mount. And it's not that this does anything or bothers me at all. It doesn't need to be there. So we're gonna chop it out. All right, first thing I'm gonna try. No battery left. Okay, let's try this again. This is probably going to be the least fun part. Maybe not. Let's make sure we don't cut the wrong thing. See if we can metal fatigue that. Sweet. I just got to grind these things down. That'll take a little bit of time. Let's get some grinding done, shall we? I gotta do that side, but we'll get this knocked out. Well, I've got these ground down to where I'm pretty confident that that's gonna be just fine. So now I'm gonna get some paint on them, let the paint dry before this thing goes back together. Well, I've got these all ground down. Of course it's not pretty. I put some paint on it, painted the inside of the rail, just a little bit of rust prevention. Did the same on this side. I still have to get the one in the center the rest of the way out of there. I'll do that at a later date, but I'm really happy that I got that piece out. I was looking at this bumper. This is what came off my truck, and it's a little bent up, especially at the bottom. It's a Toyota replacement. All the hardware is super rusty. I don't know that I could get this apart without new hardware. And this bracket's all bent and twisted. I know that this didn't really fit that well. It sat a little further back on the right side, and I guess it's been bumped a few times. It's a bumper. So I got to thinking, the last thing I want to do after all this work is put on a bent up front bumper just to change it again in the future. I just don't want to do things twice. So I bought something, and yeah, it's like a little gift for the truck. So I decided that this truck was due for an upgrade, so I bought one of those really heavy bumpers for this truck. And because it was so heavy, I had to enlist the real muscle of the household. Oh, I should help her. Alright, can you get that side?
Yes. Hold on, my foot's stuck on it. Okay. It's not bad.
Don't go too far on your side.
All right, see you later.
Well, it needs to go further in. I'll figure it out.
Do I need to do it again?
It worked! That worked! I can't believe that worked. Let's do it again.
Do it again. Wow.
It's perfect now. Not really, but it's close. Yeah. That looks awesome. It's super loud, I know. Well, there's only one bolt I can't get in there. I'll have to use the die grinder to open up a hole a little bit. I'm pretty content with that. That was way too easy. Of course, my wife did the hardest part of that. Getting this lined up and getting the bolts in it, it was great. And everything fits really nice. And I got really lucky here because I didn't buy this brand new. I actually bought an engine fire Land Cruiser. It was actually an LX450 out of Colorado that had this bumper on it. And I thought, if that bumper survived the fire and it survived transport, because sometimes, not so lucky there, I'm going to stick it on my truck. It isn't my favorite bumper. There are others that I like better, but they're all really expensive. Really hard for me to justify spending that money on something that's mainly cosmetic. It's not really, cosmetics aren't really my thing, but the opportunity showed itself. Of course, I wanted to replace that bent up bumper for the last, 6 years I've had this thing, and I finally did it. I just had to be really patient. Now that the truck's back together, and I know I say truck, but it has a full frame. So does a Crown Vic. That argument doesn't hold up, does it? There's only one thing left to do, and that is to test the bumper. We need to make sure it's good, because I don't want to have to take it back off again. That would be terrible. So obviously I'm not going to run into something, but I have something else in mind. Sorry, neighbors. It's for science. Nope, need more. Let's put it in low. Oh man. Now, I don't know, I can't really lock it in first gear. That's the problem. The bumper works good. I think I'll keep it. This was actually a really simple set of repairs, maintenance, updates, upgrades, whatever you want to call it. This thing was overdue for some attention. I do work on this from time to time, and it does have a pretty lengthy laundry list. Some of the things I'd like to do this year, I'd like to get the AC working, which is going to be hoses and some wiring. It's not really that difficult. Getting the cruise control to work is going to be another story. I have some ideas that hopefully won't kill me if something goes wrong. And I'd like to put some wheels on it. I've got some caster correction plates for the front, going back to factory control arm bushings. The ones that are in there now are the poly bushings, and they're not really the greatest. I'd like to have something that was a little more stock-like, even though it is lifted. It does have a 3-inch OME lift on it. I need to work on the rear locking actuator. It takes a little time. You got to go back and forth a whole bunch to get it to lock in. But outside of that, this truck is fantastic. This isn't what I always wanted, but once I had this truck, I really wanted more power, some more torque. Nothing against the 1FC. This is just perfect. This is exactly what I wanted. It's no rocket ship, but it gets relatively okay gas mileage on 87 octane. It's cheap to fix. The parts are everywhere in my shop, and it should be reliable. I mean, I've put 2,700, 2,800 miles on it since I swapped it, and it really hasn't let me down. There's been some things that I need to address, but outside of that, it's a big project, so I kind of expected that. And if anything does go wrong with this swap, I started working on this, 6-7 years ago? So anything that's wrong with it, I'm happy to take accountability for. I've learned a lot in that amount of time, and I'm sure in another 6 or 7 years, I'm going to look back on the work I did today and just shake my head. But that's just how life goes. I really hope you enjoyed this update. As always, I love all the comments, all the feedback, and even the criticism. I love it all, and I'll catch you on the next one. So I have a plan. I made a giant mess, and I don't want my neighbors, they probably didn't see this. They might see this. I'm not sure. I'm going to pull out some of this honeysuckle here, and maybe that's why they'll think there's a bunch of mud here. That's what we're going to go with. So we're just going to, and we also need to test the bumper the other direction.